I'm here with Zineb Layachi, the CMO in residence at Adinton Technologies and co-founder of Pitchslap, which is the weekly pitch competition for the founders so they can get feedback on their business. Zineb, it's great to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to having this conversation.
All right. Well, we had a chat briefly just before we started, and we talked a little bit about the basics. And the basics is interesting because that I was listening to relatively recently to Kobe Bryant, and he talked about how much time, how many years he spent on refining the basic moves in basketball. And I've heard that the same thing that apply to like other things, disciplines, right? Like marketing. But I know that not everybody does spend enough time on, like, for example, 6 Principles of Influence, Cialdini. And you brought up that point where when the founders, they transition from their customer validation point to when they start working on the marketing side, they overlook the basics or they are not really paying enough attention. What were some of the things that you found or you've seen so far that happens quite often?
Yeah, that's a super interesting stage right there. I've seen that most founders are not as in touch with their customers. So I think at that stage, most founders are usually behind their computers. They're at their desks, thinking about what's the greatest messaging. My product does this. It's the best thing in the world. Looking at Gartner trends. So all this stuff that you can find online, but there's not a lot of talking to the actual ICP, no? So if you do talk to your ideal customer profile, all that is much easier. No, your messaging, your everything, even the content that you put out that I'm sure we're going to be talking about
Yes.
later on. Everything you get super inspired, and I think that's what actually delays the going from customer discovery or customer development to actually building a landing page and then starting to drive some traffic. I think that really delays the whole process because you're inside your head. So there's nothing seems perfect, as opposed to when you're actually it's inspired by what your ICP is saying or what your ICP believes in, etc. Then you have that confidence to just put it out there and test it, no? But when it's just you behind the computer, of course, perfect, it doesn't exist, no?
But they obviously did, the founders did some customer validation, but they probably didn't do, I mean, it was product based, right? It was product focused mostly, not the marketing, not the marketing focused.
Yeah, and not specifically in terms of, you know, if your copy, and I think we had spoken about this, no, your copy, use your customers' words in your copy. So if you're too focused on, of course, the product, but not enough focused on the customer and listening and just talking, talk to anywhere between, I would recommend 100, but in some cases it's just not possible, no? But just the idea behind it of talking, without necessarily having that intention to pitch or no, just talking, seeing what resonates, what they say, what they care about, what they don't care about, no, where the objections are, etc. All that makes the rest much easier.
How do the founders not overcomplicate the initial marketing thing where, well, we just need to have a basic offer, we just need to create a basic landing page and just do those things well without trying to go into some fancy tactic that was popular, like became popular 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, great. Especially when you say tactic, I'd like to say growth hacking, no? Because they tend to at very early stage start thinking, okay, so how can I start growth hacking? Or my favorite one is to do conversion rate optimization when there's barely any
Any
traffic or
conversion
any
going?
conversion, no? Um, yeah, but to answer your question, how can they? So you asked me how can they simplify or how do
Yes.
they
Yeah. How do they
overcomplicate it?
focus on the basics?
Yeah. how do they focus on the basics? And again, it's there's no secret to this. If you're customer focused, you're focusing on the basics because at the end of the day, that's, you know, whatever you develop or whatever you put as your messaging, that first email, that transactional email, whatever it is, if it all came from those conversations with the customer, um, it's you just simplify
Hmm.
everything. Because you know at the end of the day from conversations, let's say with customers, um, you're not behind your desk thinking, you know, my product does A, B, C, D, E. No, since you've spoken to them, you know that what's important is A, B, C. And if you only deliver A now, they'll be happy. So just as an example, no, it gives you that validation, no, from your market to keep moving, even if your offering is you know, very simple, like the cupcake example, no? You first do, if you're going to end up selling a cake with the filling, etc., your first version is going to be a cupcake with the filling and the icing, so a complete version.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. What about changing the mindset of the founder so they are a little bit more marketing oriented? You try to do it, very hard to do when especially founders have their own opinion already that is formed, and they think about immediate return a lot of times or measuring something in like very short period of time. What are some of the things that you could do or you are doing to make them think about marketing in the right way?
Hmm. I think one of the best things there is talking to other people. So that's one of the best things about being part of an incubator, for example. So you're surrounded by other entrepreneurs at the same stage, similar stage. You've got these mentors. You're in this network that is there to help you, no? And just say, you know, bring out those red flags and say, hey, stop. You know, are you building a first landing page with WordPress? Stop right there. No, are you making a first video with I don't know, with Adobe Premiere? Let me stop you right there. No, these things. So I think that network is super important at first. We all have, I mean, not all founders have a marketing background for sure. And if you look at the different types of businesses that are created, we've got, you know, those the two types where you've got the the solution, and then you're trying to shoehorn the problem into it. So that's one. And then you've got the scratch your own itch type of a business, right?
Hmm.
So these two situations, for example, they if they have the right network, um, they can readjust. No, they can make the necessary adjustments.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
think, yeah,
Having
that's definitely feedback. Yeah,
having that feedback loop, right?
definitely. Especially, you know, we do a lot of work with Pitchslap on pitches, and it's, you know, it's the constant, you know, pitch, get feedback, pitch, get feedback, pitch, get feedback. So, and then those incremental improvements will eventually take you to something that'll actually resonate, no?
Yeah, I mean, it makes so much sense. I mean, I found that from my experience, I've seen that like starting super small and basic and just getting feedback quickly makes a huge difference to the output. Although the input, the strategy, the plan could look very impressive, which mostly does. It mostly does look very good on paper. However, the output becomes pretty disappointing. It's like, what is this? Like the on the other end, when it's all done and been executed, you're like, well, that was quite not quite what everybody expected. So how could we get away
Absolutely.
with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Let's
No,
let's
absolutely. I think, you know,
hmm.
we both have many stories, and you know, we could tell many stories.
Yes. Let's talk about lead volume, and this is an interesting one. I think it applies to not only startups
Hmm.
but mid-sized companies, in even large companies. The lead volume versus lead quality. where unfortunately most of the time we like the founders and the marketers, they look at the leads in a volume sense versus necessarily looking at how many of those are being actively created as an opportunity or talk to, or to at least have even any legitimate interest to buy. Let's talk a little bit about that from your perspective. How do you see it, and what are some of the things that could be done to change that perspective?
So yeah, absolutely, agree with you in the fact that there's a there's a big problem here nowadays, and well, it's been for many years now. This mindset, this MQL mindset, for bigger corporate, bigger companies, it's also stems from the fact that marketing is actually you know either the bonuses or they're all tied to this MQL, no? So if they bring in 2,000 leads and their cost per lead is 50, they're super happy. But what about down the funnel? No? How many of those leads have led to demos, and how many, no, in the case of B2B, how many of those leads actually led to real opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
and then demo to close rates? And then at the end, you've got your cost of acquisition. So the cost per lead is very misleading. So it makes marketing think that they're doing it well, but if you look at your cost of acquisition, you'll see that you're not actually doing it very well, right? So marketing, how does it get, in general, the easiest way to get those leads has been, gated content, an ebook, mm, a report, put your email and get the download the document or the report for free, and everyone's happy. Yay, we got 2,000 downloads, 2,000 emails. But how many of those are actual opportunities? No, so there's this change of mindset, and there's so many talking about this nowadays, and people not just talking but applying this, and with a lot of success. That going, it's not about numbers, it's not about volume, it's quality. No, if you get 500,
I
it's
was just gonna
okay.
say. I was just
No,
gonna
you
say
could
that.
breathe.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. How do we get away from it? Because I know some people, what they do, they would ungate everything, which is not bad, not a bad idea. Or they would start measuring marketing and revenue, which very, very few companies do, but some of them try to do that. Maybe there are some other things that you've seen that could be effective to change that mindset. Maybe the company is starting out, or they're willing to make a change of this old model that doesn't work. What could they go to?
Well, there are several things that you can do. So on one side, you can do some awareness marketing. So that's, and I hope that everyone is going to be doing more of that. So pure just education marketing, just making it easy, educating. It's like when you think of a landing page. So you get the 100% of that traffic that arrives, 3% is ready to convert. 47%, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken, is, would like to buy but is not ready now, and 50% will not buy, right? That's according to research. Now, if you look at all that, there's a slight change of mindset. If you bring in the intent from the very beginning, if you think of intent, how can you drive people with intent, right?
Mm-hmm.
From the very, very beginning. I know we've tested that's with an outreach campaign. We've tested getting audiences that are actively searching for, predictive analytics or attribution or something like that. No, something similar. And I'm saying something similar because there are some businesses where you could say, so if someone is searching for X, that means they're ready for my product. No, you should think of how that could apply. So you could use Bombora, there are tons of tools out there and test. So if you bring in people with intent, that's more outbound, no? But for
Hmm.
inbound, going back to what I said before, the education marketing. So if you educate and make it easier for people to learn about your business, then when they come, they'll be ready. So there you go. There's intent. So either way, there's the outbound. It's more short term, and then the other one is more long term. But they're both connected. Even if you bring you have an outbound strategy where your audience has intent. What you can do is once they're on your website, make sure it is easy for them to consume your content. Watch a 3 5 minute demo video for free, um, things like that.
Doing basics well.
Yeah. And
And
testing and just testing.
right. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense where it's also, I think, the point where when they do create content, I mean, outbound model for sure, it makes a lot of sense. It's a lot quicker and it's definitely needs to be done. But from the content perspective, not creating, I guess, blogs or articles that shouldn't be there, that already been talked about, that you just do just for the sake of having them on the website. Like, how do you make a genuinely helpful thing from the content perspective that is not being done based on your conversation with the customers? I think that's such a big gap there.
Hmm. It is. I mean, first of all, it's like when you're trying to figure out what to do with your own life. You have to look at what you're good at, what you like doing, and what the market is ready to pay for, right? So I think it's the same thing. When the inspiration is always your customer and everything around the customer, not just in their job, specifically to specific to the product or service that you're selling, but all around, everything. What is a day-to-day um, uh, look like for your ideal customer, right? But if you then look at, and I think I'm gonna talk about the competition after that, because then you look at what's out there, what's been said. This is what I want to say, no?
Hmm.
What's been said, how has it been said, and what types of engagement has that type of content gotten, right? And that doesn't mean to say that if there's a type of content that's already been posted, I'm not going to post it. No, maybe it means that you can post it but differently. No, what's your twist? So mm,
Reinvent, don't innovate.
definitely. Mm, exactly.
Yeah, it's so much
Exactly.
smarter. Find something that already ranks somewhere, hopefully, and then just
Mm,
use that, put it at a nicer spin perspective. That makes a lot of sense. Let's talk about.
yeah, and I'm doing a lot of Sergey. I'm doing. I've gotten into Reddit lately, just to sort
Mm,
of see what's going on. I mean, it's kind of hard Reddit to just get into it because they don't let you post as much as they stop you. They don't let you post as much as LinkedIn, of course, which I mean I don't understand. But anyways, but if you look at all the discussions, the hot ones, the trending ones, etc., you get a sense for what's out there on a different platform that not on LinkedIn, right? So that's super interesting.
it makes it reminds me of doing the when I did customer research and if I didn't have an ability to talk to a customer, which is always the best. Well, one way you could just read reports, which are not quite useful because they are so distant from what the customer says. But the other one, what I found was really helpful, is I went to on Quora. And on Quora, there are actual people who you target. They already posted about that thing that you're trying to find out. And if you copy paste some of the things that they say, you get a pretty compelling picture of their problems, their beliefs, their fears. For example, I look at customer success managers, and I learned a lot, like because they are posting about it, and it was pretty effective too. I only spent like 2 hours, and you get a reasonably good idea of these are the words, and use them, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think they're the biggest challenge. Quora, I'm a big fan of Quora. I always recommend it for. well, not even not just at the very beginning, um, for all stages of marketing for sure. Um, I think there the real challenge is, let's say there's a business in Berlin, no, starting out in Germany. Um, what do they have, the type of content, the content that we have access to is mainly from, the US, North America in general. I think it's access to that, to the volume of content. So it can help you for the first, the initial stage, if especially if you're doing marketing in English, so it can help you with the messaging, etc. But then after that, you're going to have to get a bit more, especially if your market is in Germany, you're going to have to zero in on your area, and I think that's a huge challenge.
Absolutely. That's a great point because it's only in that case Quora can only get you that far. It will be very like surface level. Then you just it's all German forums for after that.
Yeah.
If those exist. But
Well,
it's
they
true.
might
It's
they might be, you have to find them. No, you just have to find them.
yes. What about psychological biases that or behavioral psychology? I mean, in terms of
Hmm.
some of the examples I thought maybe you bring up because I know you really you like that area. I like that one too.
Hmm.
Like in terms of some of the practical things that happen, like potential loss versus potential gain. What are some of the examples you've seen in marketing and some of the traps that exist?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's a really that's a the prospect theory, and that's a really big one that we're more motivated by the loss of by a loss than by a potential gain, no? And especially we can see that in things like urgency and fear of missing out. That's one of the big ones. You can see, for example, e-commerce. The abandoned carts is a big one. Um, those pop-ups where a last day or special discount or just to get you your unlimited limited stock, for example. These kind of things that get you thinking, if I don't take advantage of this, I'm gonna miss out. No, um, yeah. So these kind of things, and then when it comes to B2B, the we've tested one. So
Hmm.
at Adinton. So what our predictive tool does is it helps you zero in on those who are ready to buy, right? So for your sales team or your marketing team, doing remarketing, or your sales team, doing the calls or nurturing them, you really zero in on those that demonstrate readiness to buy. So that laser focus, it could be pitched in two ways. Um, One is because you're laser focused, you're not wasting time. So you're not wasting X number of hours per salesperson. You're not wasting, X percent of your marketing budget, right? Or it could be in terms of a gain. So in terms of the additional revenue, because you're not wasting time on the bad, the crappy leads, you're where the actual opportunities are. So you can be the closer that you are and close and get more
Hmm.
revenue, right? And marketing the same way. And these two ways of pitching it is pretty interesting. I always recommend companies to actually test it out for themselves. No, if they're doing I don't know, an outreach campaign, they can test, for example, a subject line that's more a gain, and the other one is more of a loss. I always recommend people testing these out. Mm.
That's yeah. I think there's a lot of companies that use the gain thing, where like, oh, you just save your free time, save money, save everything. Uh, where
Yeah.
it's like, oh, like it's so great, but it's so also so generalized.
Mm.
Like save time. Like what does it mean? Like everything saves time. Right?
Right. As opposed to stop wasting 10 hours, being specific, no? Stop wasting 15 hours a week on this. And you're like, oh, crap. No, am I really wasting that much money? No. A CFO, when a CFO reads, I might be wasting $2 million on one thing. It catches attention, no? It catches their attention much more. Then again, I always recommend people testing, both to see which one resonates more. But yeah. Mm.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, you definitely like the audience always sometimes they do react in a ways that you just don't know, like where like whatever the line that would work or pull. What about let's talk about content
Yeah.
creation. I think this is such an interesting topic. I think you mentioned it the last time we talked, and I think it happens so often where founders or even marketers they try to focus on a lot of channels, like 3 channels or 4 channels, without maybe looking at the one that already works or the one that's worth going deeper into. Talk a little bit about that, your experience on spreading yourself a little bit too thin and across the channels versus going deep on one, for example, like LinkedIn, if your audience is there.
Hmm. Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics. So when you're starting out, and I've made this mistake. Um, I've made the specific mistake of looking at the competition, for example, and seeing, okay, so the competition is in 4 channels, let's say. Um, we need to be on those 4 channels. But I did not stop to think, okay, so the competition has been around for how many years? Yeah.
Yes.
So let's put that all in no in context. Um, it's I'm just gonna mention something real quick. It's like when you're looking at, so you're let's say you're gonna launch something, you're gonna go head on with Salesforce, right? And you're thinking, what copy am I gonna use in my landing page? Now, why don't you go back um, and look at Salesforce first landing page when they first launched? What did they focus on? No, and that always helps. Go back to the initials of Netflix. Go back to the first Apple
Mhm.
websites and see how. So you have to look at that, just to be able to get wrap your head around the context. And in terms of channels, it's the same thing. You know, um, you've got others doing one thing, but you think about you and where you're at. What's good for you? And I absolutely agree with you. The spreading yourself too thin. I mean, you don't do any marketing, any channel correctly, no? Because you just don't have the manpower at the beginning, no? And nor do you later, not just because you have a bigger budget that you can and you can afford to, that you should, no? It's just um, it's just not efficient. So yeah, absolutely. I recommend, especially at the beginning, 2 at most, but be very clear on what objective has each channel. No, for example, for Pitchslap, we started on LinkedIn. No, we started on LinkedIn. My co-founder and I are both on LinkedIn. We are considering Instagram. We're considering either Instagram or YouTube. You know, but that's it. No, at this stage, it just doesn't make sense unless we have we can see it clearly that our audience is also on Instagram, no, which I'm sure they are. But for now, with the limited resources that we have, it's just we stick to LinkedIn. No, no, absolutely. And plus, if you're not doing one right, as in thinking about, what type of content do they consume on this platform. It's not something. No one gives you a how to start on LinkedIn. No, you learn it on your own, because every business is different, every person is different. People react to your profile differently than they react to mine. So everything, the context is completely different. So you start this learning phase, and you can't start this learning phase in 4 different channels, right? And yeah, absolutely, for B2B, I absolutely recommend LinkedIn for sure. And and Instagram and YouTube, of course, depending on the type of business. Sorry for rambling, but
No, that's a great point. I was just listening because I think like the one that really hit home was the one that you said you can't really learn what you need to produce. It's like how producing the content that actually connects with the audience versus producing the content to say that you produce something, which happens quite a lot and doesn't really work very well, right?
yeah, that's a great point, actually. Yeah, because there's a point, there's there's production, so you produce, you put stuff out there, and there's one thing that I think most of us don't do very well is to actually analyze that content. So it's not just, post and leave. It's come back. Think of, if you can use, Shield Analytics, or maybe LinkedIn now has some pretty solid video analytics. But if you can use something like Shield Analytics, that'll help you understand, and then read the comments. That's where the real engagement, the real stuff is on. The other day I posted something that people were having conversations without me being in them. That's awesome. No? So read the comments, see what people are saying, and try to understand, so you can reverse engineer it. Try to understand what made that post interesting or not interesting, no? And also the whole volume thing. I might say that, for MQLs, volume is not, that mindset. We should kill that mindset. But here, in terms of content, I say volume is much, yeah. I highly recommend that.
How do you look at creating more content with actually creating more volume with limited resources? Any particular mediums that you? I mean, I know you like video too, which we'll talk a little bit about. But like any ways that you think we could, or the companies could make it a little bit quicker versus just like a traditional ways, like writing a blog or writing a white paper.
Well, there's the quickest one, which is, it doesn't take much editing or formatting or anything. It's just a plain text post.
Hmm.
That's the simplest one. I think to answer your question, it's it's once you have the idea, then the rest, how are you going to put an image? Are you going to say it in a video or not? That's the easy part. No, it's the what am I going to talk about? No, and of course it's getting over the is this going to resonate? Do they care about this? No, you should get rid of that and do these things anyways, because time will tell, and that's what the volume is there for. But when you're not sure what to write or what to post, that's where you get stuck. No?
That's true. That is actually true. I find that coming up with ideas for your content sometimes is not the easiest thing. Depending on, of course, what you want to talk about. If you have a specific product, then it probably is. I mean, it's relatively easy to figure out the use cases based on your customer conversations and just create the topic, look at the search trends, kind of merge the two, and like, okay, prioritize. I'm going to put these types of posts, and then also you measure the engagement on LinkedIn, for example, if you're using that as your platform. But then
Mm.
you'll see what happens, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's about putting that content out there. And in terms of inspiration, you've got the typical ones that everyone talks about, which is, being on sales calls and um, reading, reviews and mm, pitching yourself, going to events online, for now online,
Yeah.
calling your customers, trying to get in conversations with people that you know have not purchased from you to understand why. All these things, and talking to people from other departments of your ICP, of other departments, trying to understand things, like I said before, and not just related to your product or service, no? Um, to see if there's any piece of content that could come up there. Because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is, of course, not be salesy, No, we're not
Hmm.
trying to be like a pitching robot. We're trying to bring value until that person is actually convinced and ready to buy. No? So we're trying to just be there. No? Educating. But it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to keep educating on that specific subject. No, it could be anything else that they care about. And there, there are tons of blogs and people, experts out there saying, do this, do this, do that. I like to look at specific examples. No? I like to dig in with the specific company and see that situation. What do they sell? Which geography do they sell in? What language? Look at all that context before we start looking at, what types of content to post, no?
Context, right? Context makes such a big difference
Hmm.
versus
Hmm.
you Google how to create content. Everybody's got an opinion, like, oh, you should always do, oh,
Of course.
absolutely do this and this and this, and
Yeah.
the reality
Hmm.
is it's a lot of it is not even close. It doesn't even matter to you, right?
Hmm. Hmm. No, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, who would have said, for example, I was on a demo the other day, and just realized one very important thing about the whole product during that demo, and it was just, it just blew my mind, and it changed the way we did things after that, and I decided to write about it. No? So that's not something that I would have found on a blog post of some other person's. Great, they're great ideas. I'm not saying that they're crap and you shouldn't read that stuff. I'm just saying that if you're in touch with your ICP and you're constantly out there having conversations with people around that the ICP and the players in the industry, etc., you're not going to get bored. You're not gonna get bored, and you're not gonna feel uninspired. No, you're always gonna have something to talk about.
What about video content? What's some of the? I mean, we all see videos are more people start create them, and some of them are finally pulling out their phones and start creating them in a slightly crappier quality, and they realize that they actually work as well, just the ones that you paid $10,000 for. But in terms of maybe some of the suggestions that you'd have for startups or for mid-sized companies in terms of using video content, what should they start doing or consider doing, something that maybe they're not thinking about at the moment?
Yeah. Um, Especially when they're starting out, to just sort of get over that fear, if that exists, no fear of being on camera, and one of the best ways to get over that is to, you know, do the first video and watch yourself, no? That's one of the best things, no? Um, our pitching show, we send them their recording the next day, and part of their what they're signed up for is they have to watch themselves again, no? And that's a big learning experience, no? So just do your first one. I've done it with many clients that are a bit reticent, and they're not comfortable with video, and do you think I should be the voice, and do you know, at the end of the day, it's human to human, no? Even on LinkedIn, we're not just doing business to business. It's a human that's actually building a relationship with another human and then deciding that this is a fit, no? You've sold me on that. So when they're trying to decide, not sure, I don't know about this, I just say, hey, why don't we do exactly, Sergey, what we're doing right now is jump on a Zoom call. We'll record it. We'll talk about something specific, no? I'll do a quick edit, put some subtitles on it, and see, there you go. There's your first one. No, you talked about something related to your industry, or how you feel, or no, to your experience, etc. That's the first one. I'm not saying it's going to be, it's going to get 10,000 views or 200 likes. That's not what I'm saying. You just have to get over that at first. No?
Just
And
starting.
then I think for the rest of the other stages, I think just not forgetting to incorporate video and in all of your marketing efforts. Um, founders. One I loved this one email, a welcome email with a founder recorded a very short video of himself saying, "Hey." It didn't have to be personalized in the sense that in the video he said, "Hey,
Mm.
Zineb," no, but he just said, "Hey," um, told me a bit about their story and why, blah blah blah, and I was like, wow, so that stuck with me, no? So don't be afraid to use that and video even in your advertising. I highly recommend testing it. I have seen in some cases images perform better than video, but that's very case specific again. But I still recommend testing video. And in terms of overall content strategy for LinkedIn, let's say,
Hmm.
why don't you do a long video and see what comes out of there, the Gary V pillar strategy, and see if you could just get like little snippets here and there, because at the end of the day, you don't want all your videos to be 10 minutes on LinkedIn at first, no? Short and sweet.
Yes, yes. Unless there's
Um,
unless there's like some
yeah,
sort of a crazy valuable tutorial, which is unlikely.
of course. No, no, of course. And much later, when you have a very solid audience and I think they're like waiting for that notification, like waiting for you to post. Sure, a longer form is great, but at the very beginning, when I still don't know you that much or we still haven't built that relationship, then short and sweet and on point to catch my attention, keep that attention,
Mm.
and yeah.
What about any books that you'd recommend, or maybe resources you'd recommend for people to learn to be better marketers, to think in the right way? And that could be as simple as, well, just go and post more.
Go ahead and post more, definitely. So I'm going to take that one. Definitely go and post more. Put yourself out there. I consume a lot of content. If I had to choose, a podcast, I would definitely recommend, subscribing to Everyone Hates Marketers. I think you're subscribed to that one too,
Yes. Yeah, that's a
right?
great one.
Yeah.
I did interview Louis. He's such a character. A great show.
Yeah, yeah, he's great. Bonjour, bonjour. I love
Yeah.
that.
Oh, that's the signature greeting.
Yeah. And definitely on positioning. Now I can't remember the name of the book. April Dunford's
Oh, it was the book, right?
absolutely, yeah,
Absolutely awesome, right?
absolutely awesome. There you go. Thank you so much. I think it's one of those, I read loads of books and there are a few that just stick, no?
Mm.
Um, love the positioning. I think I discovered positioning because, she mentions that positioning as it's taught in school, it's just nice. It's a nice little statement, no? That everyone's been taught if you've learned marketing, but no one teaches you how to actually do it, no? Deliberately. So that was pretty. Mm.
It's super valuable though. Like I think position is so underestimated because we look at it as boards, but it's way more than that. When you reach out and you say, well, would you like to be a guest on a podcast? Instantly, people have an idea. Versus you would say, oh, would you like to do an interview? They have a completely different set of expectations, and those are just two different words, and they probably mean the same thing, but the
Mhm.
implications of the response rate or the type of conversations that will follow up are massively different. And it's unreal. Like, and this is just a simple example. Versus if you apply that to the product or service, that is crazy. Especially when you talk to the founders or you talk to startups. I actually spoke with a couple last week, and they're diving into this massively technically complicated rant. I'm like, guys, can we just explain to me like I'm a 5-year-old? Like, I need that level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you can't help them. You can't help them because you don't understand what they do.
Yeah, you should next time send them to Pitchslap.
I will. Yes,
Yeah,
that's probably what we
no, no,
should do.
detechnify the message. No, the detechnify, is that what
Yeah,
it's
I think you
called in
could say that.
English? No, this technify or whatever.
No,
Yeah.
detechnify.
Um,
Yeah.
Detectify, right? Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. If you go back to basics and say so what it is that you actually do, forget forget the seamless, forget the state of the art, forget the AI,
AI.
forget the machine learning. Yeah, I mean I've been there. I'm laughing, but I've been there. I've definitely learned the hard way, and I think when I started to make the shift is when I learned that you just talk like you write like you talk, um, and I think there's this great it's what I've seen in going from corporate to then B2B. I've seen that the bigger the company, um, of course the older the employees are, in general, no, the more anchored that mindset is on the more formal ways of doing things than before. No,
Mm.
so this whole write like you talk doesn't sit well because it's like, but how am I going to talk like write like I'm talking to a friend? But I just try to always remind them that it's not that you're disrespectful. You're not like yo yo yo, what's up? No,
Yeah.
you're granted you talk like a normal person, no, and you're respectful in that sense so that people can understand you. I think it was super interesting.
It's true. Yes, it's so hard to change to make that shift where the company is pushes their message in like busy professionals today do acts like talking in third person. Like what is this? Like how does that like who are they talking to?
Yeah, yeah. But
Like it's
I've
also
been there. I've been there, and
I was just gonna say like it's also like trying to be like real or honest with yourself of what
mm,
is important, what is valuable, to versus thinking that it is valuable or trying to deceive yourself thinking that it's valuable because there's this great offer that is being created that the creators would never use and they're like, oh yeah, let's go send it. But deep inside they know it's not great.
yeah, yeah. But the deep inside, I think this ties back to what we were saying at the very beginning, which is that lag between customer development and the landing page, where because you're not in touch with the outside world, you're gonna get that feeling of, I know it's not good, but I'm gonna send it anyways because I've been at it for 3 days. But when you're doing that lean in a
Mm.
lean way, whereas you have a first version, second version, boom, I'm gonna pitch it to a couple people and see what happens. You know, come back, make some changes, pitch it again, come back. It's not, the way that innovation, used to be done, or product development used to be done before. It's, companies just behind closed doors, 6 months, and then launch the product. No, I think we're still doing that this way with our messaging. No, or our sales, sales copy, or in your example too.
Yes. Zineb, any final messages to the audience? Any advice that you'd like to give them? Anyone who is trying to do push better content, be a better content creator or better marketer? Anything we have missed from this conversation?
I'll think about anything that we have missed, but I'd like to say this one again, is
Of
that
course.
just post more, post more. I can't say this enough. I wish I was posting more. Just post more. It's really the only way you're gonna know if how things, what actually resonates, what doesn't resonate, and and look at the analytics that you have. I'm not saying in terms of, a attribution, because these are things that are, you can't, there, attribution is very difficult, or non-existent in this case. But look at your analytics, look at the comments, and when you do search on LinkedIn, for example, find other people that have the same audience as you, no? Connect with those people, see what they're talking about, and you can use tools. There are tools available to connect, with people that have liked other posts. For example, there, So yeah, definitely I would say go ahead, post more, post more, post more.
That's a great advice. It's simple, but like I think it was a theme of this show, well, of this interview, back to the basics. But that's very valuable.
Yeah, mm,
Zineb,
absolutely.
pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for giving your thoughts on all of this, and that was great chatting with you.
No, thank you, Sergey. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope, it was valuable for your audience. And yeah, thanks again.
And we'll link all that. We'll link your LinkedIn profile in the show notes and Pitchslap, obviously, and so all will be in the show notes. So you guys can go ahead and check it out because you got amazing posts, which I'm following. So if you are in marketing, that you should follow Go Zineb. She's doing great.